Hey guys, we are the next team. We're Stephanie and Sylvia, and we're gonna be presenting the alterations of the posterior pituitary gland. So to start off, I'm gonna give you a little review of what this gland is. It's also called the neurohypophysis, and it's the back portion of the pituitary gland that stores hormones that come from the hypothalamus, and it then secretes them, so it doesn't actually produce them. These hormones are ADH, or antidiuretic hormone. It's also called vasopressin, and oxytocin. So this is the way the hormones reach the neurohypophysis. As I told you, ADH and oxytocin are produced by the hypothalamus, not actually by the neurohypophysis. They are produced more specifically in the supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei of the hypothalamus. Then they pass through the pituitary stalk until they reach the neurohypophysis, and the neurohypophysis then stores them until the signal for its release gets sent. So the main functions of these two hormones are, first off, ADH causes constriction of the arterioles through the body and therefore increasing the arterial pressure, and it also increases reabsorption of water by the tubules of the kidney. On the other hand, oxytocin increases uterine contractions and causes milk to be expressed from the alveoli into the ducts of the breast. So for this presentation, we're going to be focusing on ADH. So I'm going to be explaining diabetes insipidus, or also called DI. It is an uncommon condition in which the kidneys are unable to prevent the excretion of water. This condition can be caused by a deficiency of ADH or a decreased response to ADH. If it is caused by a deficiency of ADH, it is called a neurogenic or central DI, and if it's caused by a decreased response to ADH, it's called a nephrogenic DI. People with DI excrete 3 to 20 liters a day of urine, which is a lot of urine. And this large urine output is accompanied by excessive thirst. So first off, neurogenic or central DI. This is caused by disorders that act at one or more of the sites involved in ADH secretion, such as hypothalamic osmoreceptors, supraoptic or paraventricular nuclei, or the superior portion of the supraoptic or hypophyseal tract. So the main causes for this disorder are idiopathic, primary or secondary tumors or infiltrative diseases, neurosurgery, or trauma. So first off, it's idiopathic. That is related to 35 to 50% of the cases. This is associated with destruction of the hormone secreting cell in the hypothalamic nuclei, which involves an autoimmune process. It is characterized by lymphocytic inflammation of the pituitary stalk and the posterior pituitary gland. And this inflammation is due to a destruction of the target neurons. So the other causes are primary or secondary tumors in the brain, that can involve the hypothalamic pituitary region, most often due to lung cancer, leukemia, and lymphoma. There's also infiltrative diseases, which are more common in patients with Langerhans cell histiocytosis, sarcoidosis, and granulomatosis with polyangiitis. And neurosurgery or trauma. The central DI can be induced by neurosurgery, usually transsphenoidal, or trauma to the hypothalamus and posterior pituitary. So anything that damages the cells that produce these hormones is gonna create a central DI. There's also the nephrogenic DI, and this decrease in urinary concentrating ability results from either resistance at the ADH site of action in the collecting tubules or interference with the countercurrent system. The main causes for nephrogenic DI are inheritance, mainly in children, and mainly an X-linked inheritance, chronic lithium ingestion, and hypercalcemia, mainly in adults. So, inheritance. There's a mutation in the gene for V2 receptors, which is located on the X chromosome, and this gene encodes for a dysfunctional ADH-V2 receptor. I'm going to explain this really quickly. So V2 receptors are misfolded and therefore trapped in the endoplasmic reticulum. So they are unable to reach the basolateral cell surface of the cells of the collecting ducts. So if there are no V2 receptors, there is no place for the vasopressin to bind to. Therefore, the intracellular cascade that should happen in order for the aquaporin 2 channels to insert into the apical cell membrane won't happen, and there won't be any reabsorption of water. So you will pee a lot. Males tend to have more pronounced polyuria because of the whole X chromosome linked thing, and female carriers are usually asymptomatic because we have 2 X chromosomes, so it's kind of compensated. There is also another mutation, which is in the gene for aquaporin 2 channels. This gene encodes for an aquaporin 2 that doesn't get phosphorylated. So the explanation for this is that these channels, aquaporin 2, are usually stored in the cytosol. So if they don't get phosphorylated, they won't be able to reach the apical cell membrane, and therefore the water reabsorption won't happen either. So you will pee a lot. There's also the other causes that I told you. There's lithium toxicity. So lithium inhibits signaling pathways that involve GSK3 beta or glycogen synthase kinase 3 beta, and this will result in a dysfunction of the aquaporin 2 channels. And hypercalcemia. Activation of the calcium sensing receptors in the thick ascending limb of the loop of Henle reduces sodium chloride reabsorption. This then impairs the generation of the medullary osmotic gradient that is essential for urinary concentration, aka the countercurrent system. So, the pathophysiological and clinical consequences of DI. The prognosis is good as long as the underlying primary cause can be treated, such as the lithium toxicity or the hypercalcemia. Those two can be treated. But in children and elderly, DI can lead to cardiovascular collapse, fever, and hypernatremia. This is mainly because this disorder is mainly in children that are really, really young, or elderly people that are really, really old. So they can't really express if they are thirsty or if they have any discomfort related to this disorder. So that's why they will get all of these other symptoms.